So I just watched the new movie Run with our queen, Sarah Paulson, which ironically doesn't have any running in it. Now you've probably seen my title and maybe are like, hey, think story, I actually like that movie. I mean, look, it's got a 94 to 80 critic to audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, a 64 if you go over to Metacritic, so before you go automatically disliking this video, hear me out. This movie is pretty fun. I'd even say it might be a slightly above average thriller, but as I was watching this and the mystery of the film started to unravel, I was like, why did they do that? Why did they make that decision? So get in your wheelchairs, everybody, pour yourself some delicious paint thinner, because here's why Run doesn't make any sense. It's interesting to note that Run was originally scheduled to come out in theaters, remember those? But due to something called, hold on, let me check my notes here, coronavirus, it was picked up by Hulu. And it was probably a smart move too. They knew this movie wouldn't be getting any Oscar noms like another wheelchair movie we know.
He didn't get out of the cock-a-doodie car!
Or that it would be breaking any box office records.
What am I looking at?
And considering the success original films like Palm Springs have been for the platform, Hulu was looking for another win. Also, before we get started, huge shout out to Kiera Allen. This was her first feature, and I thought she did an incredible job. Hollywood actually did something right this time and cast an actual wheelchair user in the title role. By the way, have you guys been following that Maddie Ziegler-Sia autism controversy? If this video gets 1 million likes, I'll do a video on it. Anyway, the film is basically about a mother who keeps her daughter sick so that she can be with her forever. And Hulu literally came out with a show like that earlier in the year called The Act. And you know, there's gotta be some Hulu executive who's like constantly pitching mother-daughter poison stories. Anyway, the movie plays out like a traditional thriller as Chloe, the film's protagonist, slowly finds out what her mother is doing. Writers Anish Chaganty and Sev Ohanian clearly know about screenplay structure, and I just have to note that Sev Ohanian is currently writing the new Space Jam movie. Roughly 10 minutes into the film, we get its inciting incident. You know, that event that kicks the movie's ass to get it going. Here, Chloe finds a prescription bottle of her medication, but mysteriously it's prescribed to her mother. Now, I know this is a minor gripe, I'll get into the bigger criticisms in a bit, but when Diane, Chloe's mother, is eventually confronted about the label, she says, oh, that's just the receipt on the side of the bottle, which, if you've been taking medication your entire life, there's no way Chloe would buy that excuse. Okay, minor gripe over, here's where things start to get unbelievable. While Diane is out gardening, Chloe decides to call the pharmacy to find out what this drug trigoxin does, and she somehow knows the telephone number of the pharmacy off by heart, but doesn't know what the label on the side of a prescription bottle does. Anyway, the previous night she tried to figure out what trigoxin was online, but the internet was conveniently down. You'll find there are a lot of conveniences in this movie, like the fact Chloe doesn't own a phone so she can never call for help, or even though Diane eventually locks her daughter in her own room, she cuts the phone line and power to the wheelchair elevator thing as if she somehow knew her daughter would escape. When she isn't able to get an answer from the pharmacy, this is where things get even more far-fetched. First, she dials a random number.
So you just dialed a random number?
I don't have internet.
Second, someone actually picks up.
How many times do I have to tell you to take my number off the list?
No.
And third, she's able to get this stranger to go onto his computer and search drugs for him.
I don't have internet or a cell phone, and I need your help with a very urgent Google search.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but when a stranger calls my house asking me to search for drugs, I obviously do it. Wanting more answers, Chloe devises a new scheme, taking her mother out to the movies and pretending to go to the washroom, but then bolting to the pharmacy across the street to ask what the hell these pills are for.
Sorry, everyone. Cutting through. I'm paralyzed. Feel bad for me.
Bonus points if you notice the name of the film they're seeing is Breakout, which is kind of fun because she's trying to break out for most of the movie. Turns out the pills were prescribed by a veterinarian as a muscle relaxant for a dog they don't even own. But Diane has been giving them to her daughter, making it so she can't walk. But then I'm like, how did the mom get a prescription for an animal narcotic when they don't have a dog? Are vets allowed to give out narcotics without actually seeing the patient? I don't know. So anyway, Chloe has an asthma attack and wakes up locked in her room. Then there's this weird scene where Diane takes a shower and she has all these scars over her back, and we're like, ooh, how did she get those scars? We'll probably find out later. But nope, they're never brought up again. There's also another scene where Diane writes an email to Chloe's doctor about how her new medication is giving her delusions. Then I'm like, why are you writing to your doctor when you know that she's not delusional at all? You know you've been giving her dog drugs. Anyway, Diane has to run some errands and Chloe devises an elaborate plan to break out of her room. Chloe is good with engineering stuff, so hold on, let me take a big gasp of air here. She fills her mouth with water, takes a bunch of extension cord, climbs out her window over to her mother's window, uses some sort of engineering heater thing to crack the glass, then spits the cold water on the hot spot to smash it open. Not gonna lie, I thought this was really ingenuitive and I haven't seen it done in other movies, but at the same time, I'm like, why didn't she just break the glass? Why did she go through all this trouble when she could have just smashed it open? Anyway, Chloe's able to escape, flag down the mailman, but it just so happens her mom conveniently arrives at the same time, ultimately knocking him out with a syringe she always seems to have on hand. Oh yeah, she later kills him. Diane ends up chaining Chloe in her wheelchair in the basement, where she's conveniently left out a whole bunch of stuff she'd never want Chloe to see in plain sight. And a lot of it just doesn't make any sense. For example, Chloe has been anxiously awaiting on acceptance letters from various colleges. Instead of the mom disposing them, she puts them in plain sight in the basement. There's also this shoebox right in the open next to the TV that contains all these damning documents that prove Chloe isn't Diane's child and that Diane stole her from another couple years ago when her own daughter died. And I'm not really sure why'd she go through the effort of clipping out a newspaper article of this. It just doesn't make sense to me. So Diane comes downstairs shocked that Chloe has found all these things, and I'm like, dude, you're the one who left her down here with this stuff. And I kid you not, she makes a syringe cocktail out of paint thinner. Now, I'm no Nurse Ratched. You put that in her, she's gonna die. And that's not what Diane wants. She just wants to keep her daughter forever and ever, so Chloe, knowing her death is imminent, chugs a bottle of poisonous organophosphate, like you do, in the hopes her mom will call 911 to get her to the hospital. And that's exactly what happens as we venture into the final act of the film. Chloe can't speak anymore because of her poison chug, so she has to tell the nurse what happened via crayon. At this point, they think she's suicidal, so no sharp objects like pens for her. And Diane, knowing any second she could be caught, whisks Chloe away when all the other doctors and nurses are busy with a code blue. Now, it looks like Diane is gonna get away with it until she's stopped by a set of stairs not being wheelchair accessible. Oh, the irony. And we could get into a whole discussion about how living with a disability is like having a murderous, overbearing mother who limits what you can do, but that's an idea for a different video. With nowhere to go, Diane is shot by the armed hospital guards. I'm from Canada, so our hospital security guards are only armed with maple syrup flavored pepper spray, so this was a shock to me. And here is where I want to talk about some changes that could have improved this movie and where you write in the comments about how wrong I am. In the real version, Diane falls after being shot and we see her at the bottom of the stairs. Then fast forward 7 years where Chloe visits her in the infirmary at the Department of Corrections. She can kind of walk now too. I think the movie missed an awesome ironic ending if it were to be revealed that it's now Diane in a wheelchair, her bones having been shattered after falling down all those stairs. Like, it would have been awesome for Chloe to wheel Diane around, their roles having been reversed. Instead, we get this zany stinger ending where Chloe's been hiding these green pills in her mouth, like maybe even her stomach, and she tells her mother to open wide. While that's the ending, I also think the way the movie started wasn't that great either. The opening scene is Sarah Paulson going into labor, hinting that she's going to lose her child. If it were me, I'd cut all that out because viewers are smart enough to realize something's up and that Chloe probably isn't her real baby. This also takes away precious screen time that could have been devoted to making us care about the protagonist. And here I think the writers did a disservice by making us sympathize with Chloe but not empathize, and that's a key distinction. For example, the beginning montage where we're introduced to Chloe shows us how difficult her life is. She can't walk, has rashes all over her body, has to take a bunch of pills, and daily blood tests to make sure her diabetes is in check. Just because someone has ailments or a disability doesn't automatically make us care about the character. If it were that easy, writers would make every character in a movie they'd want us to care about have some sort of disability. What's missing here is empathy, and the greatest way to create empathy is through shared pain. I know that sounds a bit weird, but hear me out. If I were writing this beginning, instead of Diane hiding Chloe's acceptance letters, I'd have Diane come in so excited that a letter from her #1 university just came in. Chloe and Diane would be so excited to see the decision, only for it to be shattered when Chloe is met with a big fat rejection. Halfway through the movie, we then reveal that her mother made this rejection letter herself. It would also explain why her mother has her own laptop, which is never really brought up. What I like about this is that her rejection is tied to Chloe's want to get into college and be her own independent person, and this rejection shatters that, creating empathy. How many times in our life have we wanted something so badly and not had it happen? That's the difference between empathy and sympathy. I can't can't relate to being in a wheelchair, but I can relate to that feeling of rejection. If you want to learn more about this, I did a whole video on the difference between sympathy and empathy in horror films, but be kind, it was the first YouTube video I ever made. Caring about your main character is so important. If you don't care about him or her, then what's the point? When you do care, it heightens the thrill significantly. Something very important in a thriller. Now look, I was pretty harsh on Run, but overall it's a totally fun ride where you can just turn off your brain and enjoy the run. Okay, bad pun. If you've got nothing to do on a Sunday afternoon, definitely check it out. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you want to help me out in the channel, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment what you thought of the movie below. For more bad takes, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember, Daddy loves you very much.